Welcome to Hallway Conversations with Ed Leaders, where your hosts Chris, Jeff, and Mark bring you behind-the-scenes insights from the front lines of education. Chris, Jeff, and Mark are seasoned education leaders who provide coaching and expertise to support school districts. Together, they walk the halls with top educational leaders, diving into candid discussions about the challenges, topics, and innovations shaping schools today. From pressing issues to transformative solutions, their conversations are insightful, unfiltered, and packed with practical advice. Get ready for real talk with real leaders who are shaping the future of education. Whether you're in the classroom, the boardroom, or tuning in from home, come away with strategies and ideas you can apply on your own educational journey. Now, let's join Chris, Jeff, and Mark for another enlightening episode of Hallway Conversations with Ed Leaders.
Welcome back to our podcast, Hallway Conversations with Ed Leaders. I'm Chris Galloway. I'm a longtime administrator, a former superintendent, executive coach. I assist with strategic planning and do a lot of additional duties as a scientist.
I am Jeff. I was a longtime principal. I am now working, helping districts make big decisions with strategic planning, and I am also a part-time podcaster with y'all.
Hey, y'all. Mark Gunthu, excited to be here again with you all. Long-time administrator as well. Recently shifted roles, enjoying the busyness, but having a great time.
Awesome. So we are talking today about it's a new year, new semester. A lot of people are making New Year's resolutions and goals. And we also want to talk about, intention. Like, what's your intention for the year, the upcoming year? A little cross-pollination. If you know, I started a blog, and this is something I just wrote about. If you're not reading it, you're not hurting my feelings, but you should go read it. It's pretty fun. So what I wanted to talk about for this blog that we're going to talk a little bit about here, but we get some input from the other guys, so it'll be much better, is thinking about intentions and what your intention is for the year. And mine always comes back to a story from principal school where we were sharing out our group project, how we were doing. We had to totally redesign a school. And so I have been appointed the sharer from the group. So I stand up, I go first of the whole class, right? I'm the first one for the class. And I'm presenting out, and I tell the professor, who's sitting quietly in his chair watching us all, that we're doing this, we're redoing the curriculum, and not to worry, we really wanted to make teachers feel involved. And so we brought them together in committees and we got their opinions. And I finished my statement, and professor nods, and he said, yeah, but you really should involve teachers. And I was like, look, I'm tired, I'm stressed. I know I said this, right? And so I said politely, well, we did. I told you that we really wanted to make them feel involved. And so that's what those committees were about. We made them feel involved by bringing them onto these committees. And he said, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. You should involve them. And I said, but that is what I said. And so, when I talked about it, one thing is I look around, the whole class is trying to figure out what's going on. That's one. The other thing that's going on is everyone in that class, y'all, is looking at me like, thank God it's you. It is not me, because I don't know what's about to happen, because it felt like I had walked into a lesson, right? And I did. And so he looks at me and he said, yeah, you told me that you wanted to make them feel involved. You could do that, or hear me out, you could actually involve them. And you know what I said at the time internally was that, oh, fudge, from the Christmas movie. But I did not tell myself fudge. And what that point were we as a group, but that I was working with, did we really want their input? Or were we just trying to check a box? And so that's what the professor continued. And he said, look, if you don't want their opinion, don't ask for it. If it's just fluff, don't worry about it. But if you do actually get it, because if you don't want it and they give it to you when you blow it off, you have lost that group. And so that moment on was my intention. If I really wanted to involve someone, it is my intent to involve them and not make them feel involved, right? That's sort of irrelevant whether they feel it or not. But my intent was, I'm going to involve them. And so I've carried that lesson forward. So, I mean, that's how I set my goals and my year ahead. And so that's one of the things I'm working on. So how about y'all?
Yeah, there's so much behind what you just said, Jeff, because you know me, I'm a big goal person. I'm a vision board type person as well. And I just heard a podcast this past week about New Year's resolutions. And a lot of times they fail because people put these New Year's resolutions out there. They put goals out there. They put a vision board together and they hope it happens, right? They don't take any action to make it happen. And you have to take action, which I think goes back to intention. So I think it's interesting you say that. I'm thinking out loud as I'm working through this in my mind. Intention can be a goal in itself, like you just said, and just being intentional. So one thing that podcast recommended was when you wake up in the morning, set your attention to pursue those things. And whatever your routine is in the mornings, or, you know, whether you're a religious person or not a religious person, and you put yourself out there and you say, you pray, whatever it might be, meditate, and you say, help me set my intentions. You put yourself in that mind space so that when you're going through your day, those things will intuitively come to you saying, okay, move yourself in this direction. And I think that taking steps forward is just as important in part of the process, whether you meet that goal or not, because it moves you forward, right? It propels you forward instead of staying in the same place and going backwards. Jeff, you mentioned you just looked up a quote. What was that quote again that you had?
Yeah, it goes right on what you're saying. It's a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Just a wish. And a wish is not going to get you anywhere, right? What our parents say, wish in one hand and do something in the other and see which one fills up first, right? So same thing, right? Like, so be intentional on what you do and just take action, no matter what that looks like. And yeah, do what feels right, right?
This, this reminds me of, so in this latest role, I've been telling folks, oh, this is day 14, right? This is day 15. So I'm now in week 4, day 18, I think, right? Or 19. I'm not going to be able to use that too much anymore. Right. But I bring that up because I think one of the things in me saying that is this idea to remind myself of what I've shared with y'all already, right? One of our executive advisors used to say, can let school play you every single day if you're not intentional about working towards your goals, right? The idea of the whirlwind. As y'all are talking, I'm thinking about, all right, so I've been at this now, right? This is my 4th week. Have I been intentional in saying, here is my goal for my first 30 days, right? First 60 days, first 90 days. Am I working towards that? Yes or no? And if I'm not, what's keeping me? Because I'll tell you, from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, I'm working, right? Whether it's looking at my to-do list, sending myself reminders for later, thinking about something on the drive, getting to the office, and literally back to back to back. I know I'm working, but am I taking steps towards reaching my goals? And so the last 4 weeks have been really a lot of reflection, because there's days where I say, like, I didn't do a single thing to get to where I need to be. And right now, knowing that I've got to build relationships and spend time with people and meet, I'm meeting with people all the time. Right. But other work still needs to get done. And that other work for me right now, I just had a conversation with my superintendent on Tuesday, is the strategic plan. Right. So the work of tomorrow, right? Like, we're so stuck in right now. Am I being intentional to say, yes, like all this, yes, and right. And so today, what I did, sort of like what you're talking about, Chris, was I was sitting in my office. I had just come from campuses and I have a whiteboard, and I finally erased what was on there and I put in huge letters, strategic planning process. Because if I continue doing all the relationship building and all the meetings and being on campus, which is extremely important, but if I don't shift even just a piece of my day, I'm not going to get to the bigger, more important work. Because that's the sustainability. That's right, laying the foundation to be able to do even bigger, more important work. So when you guys brought this up, I'm like, oh man, it's like a jab. Like, am I being intentional Am I
Mark,
doing the right work, or am
Mark,
I
I knew
just
it.
letting school play me?
my knee and my leg is bouncing, and I'm like squeezing my hands here because I want to coach you so bad. Like I can't even take it. Like you're sitting here talking, and all I'm picturing is a hamster on a wheel, just spinning, 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 spinning. And I feel like, using my I statements, Jeff, I feel my impression. I feel, and I think this is every administrator, right? Every administrator right now coming back for the new year or in a new job, whatever it might be. I feel like if you're not intentional, that's all you are, because you're just spinning and spinning and spinning, and you never get anywhere, and you stay
And
in
you,
one place.
and you're not intentional about the right stuff. So like if you take
Yeah.
it to the are you school playing you playing school, we always are talking, I'm going to go school education, running a campus with whatever is happening on that campus, whatever initiative you are doing, it must in some way move kids forward so they're a little bit better human
Yes.
being by the end of the day. So if you are doing your SEL stuff, which is so important, your restorative practices, if you're having a circle, that is not the end all be all. The end all be all is so that now that we have this, it will allow them to do our next step. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you, Mark, is like I'm building
Yeah.
relationships in this moment of, why am I building relationships? Just to build them? No, I am building relationships so that we can move this district forward and do the work of tomorrow and today at the same time, right? So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually used your line the other day, Jeff, about like, but what about Monday, right?
yeah.
Because the reality is that on Monday we've got to get something ready to go and out the
Yeah.
door. And so yeah, so like, as we're having conversations, as I'm meeting with principals and really trying to understand what are the systems that are in place, or what's missing, right? Or what can we tweak, and what do we just kind of leave alone for now? I know in the back of my head is there's three important things, and I've been sharing this with principals from the first day that I met with them at a principals meeting. Like every single day, are we putting high quality instructional material in front of kids, right? Something that is
Right.
on grade level, something that is challenging them. Two, right? Are we providing that productive struggle and making sure that we're not taking it away for students, so that every single time that we walk into classrooms, students are engaging in academic conversations, students are engaging in just rigorous work. They're not bored, they don't feel disconnected, they feel engaged. You can see it, right? You can tell when you walk into a classroom. And then three, do students feel supported, right? Through accommodations, through what is in front of them, through SEL, through all those things, right? And so as I'm walking classrooms today, I spent half of the day in classrooms. As I'm talking to people, as I'm asking questions, as I'm building relationships, I know that's what's grounding me are those three things. And so even though I may not feel it, I know that I'm doing some of that work. I think the next step is, like you were saying, Chris, like, how are you keeping track of that, right?
Mhm.
How are you jotting it? How are you saying, like, I got to move the needle every day? And I don't know that I'm doing that piece there.
So I told you that lesson was foundational to me and it changed everything. So Mark, do you want your kids to feel engaged or do you want them engaged?
Right.
Just
I
throwing
caught
that
myself.
out there.
I caught myself when I said that, right?
So you, Mark, you basically took us through what your goals are for the year, basically. And that's because you're a new administrator in your role, right? Not a new administrator to the profession, but in your current role. And that's what's necessary. I think about the long-term administrators. And one of the things, like if we were to talk about what kind of goals people might have as an administrator, I think about work-life balance as being a big piece, right? So they don't burn themselves out. You're going on adrenaline right now, being new in your role. But if you were to sustain what you're doing right now for the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, you would burn out probably, right? And so also that's where intention comes in as well, is because when it comes to an administrator and work-life balance, which I don't think is a true thing. I don't think there's such thing as work-life balance for an administrator. I think it's just trying to piece in and calendar in, schedule in time with your family, but you have to be intentional, right? You have to say, I'm going to walk away from my work instead of 7:00, every night I'm done. It's going to be 5:00 on one day a week or something, right? So that you can have that time with your family.
Here's the thing that's been rattling in my head, and I think you're making me think about it in a new way there, Chris. It's if you've got the work of today and tomorrow, if you're trying to put those together, so you're doing it at the same time, right? If you've got that long-term vision set out, then you've got almost a filter, right, of what will it serve that vision. And so my question for people would be, what if I could give you a way to say yes and no? And I think that's that intention. And if you know what are my goals, what is my true north, what is guiding me, then I can make those decisions a little, not easier, but a little more straightforward, right?
I'll never forget a conversation I was having at the time. I had all of my central office folks. I think in the room was definitely C&I, school leadership, and maybe like support services or whatnot. And I was going around. We had already had the strategic plan recently done, and we had our new goals or whatever. And I said, I just kind of want to check the air and see, like, are we sticking to the plan or not? And so I went around and I was like, tell me how your work this week has tied to one of the goals. And one of my coordinators just goes off. And I was with kids and I was in the cafeteria and I was like, perfect. You're telling me everything you did, but you still haven't told me how it ties to the goal, right? And he couldn't. And then afterwards he comes and he's like, why'd you put me on the spot like that? And I said, I asked the same question. I said, if it feels or it seems like you put yourself on the spot and you caught yourself and now afterwards, and so like you're coming to like, try to fix it. Like, I don't need you to fix it with me. I need you to fix it with your actions, right? And so after that, he'd always come back and he's like, guess what I did today, right? And so I don't know that it took that moment, right? But there was reflection in that. And I think that's the big key, right? As I'm saying, yes, I'm intentional. Yes, I have my goals. Yes, I wrote these down. These are the 3 things that I want to get done. These are right. But am I checking my actions? Am I reflecting? Am I writing it down? Am I journaling it, right? How am I measuring it every single day against what those goals are?
There's another piece to all this too. As a leader, people are watching us.
Yep.
And when we're not intentional in our work, other people aren't going to be intentional. And that's when you run into teacher burnout, or you run into what you just said. Like, when I think people don't know what to do and they're not intentional and they're just doing stuff we like to call shiny objects, right? Things that look beautiful but have no impact. That's when you walk in that classroom and you see teachers pay teachers and you see worksheets and you see all these things. Well, are you intentional with your time on how you plan and your PLCs? Are you intentional? All those things tie in. When the leader's not intentional and people don't see that, then it spreads.
And it's a way to check ourselves. And, what I'm hearing from all of us, it's like both ends here. I'm in the middle on our video. If you're watching this on YouTube, on mine at least. And so Chris over here is talking about make sure you know where your intent. And so you can make these decisions. And then Mark, you just brought up, and then now you're reflecting on it. And so I think, just to remember that your New Year's goals, your New Year intentions, really also, it's not just stating it, right? It's making the plan, like I'm going to get there, but it's performance management check, right? Like in essence, are you reflecting on it? How am I doing? And how do I know? Am I paying attention to it while I'm doing it? So there's some intention in monitoring yourself too, and making adjustments as needed.
Jeff, great point, because I also heard this on a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, by the way. That's my thing, audiobooks and podcasts. Like, I don't listen to music really in the car. This other podcast was talking about the same thing regarding goals for work or business, right? When you set your goals quarterly, and you just mentioned performance management, that helps, because you might have, Mark, you mentioned, I'm going to use Mark. Folks, you're about to see a little bit of coaching. Mark, you set these goals and you had some big lofty goals in there. But if you don't piece those out quarterly, you're going to fail because you have too many big goals and you can't do them all at once. So you have to prioritize your goals, what you're going to knock out first, what's going to have the greatest impact first before you take on a new thing. And Jeff, you mentioned earlier about knowing when to say yes or no. If something comes along that looks really cool and you're like, hey, we should do that. And you're like, but wait, does it align with this goal I'm working on for this quarter? I'm not going to do that. Can it wait till later? Or, hey, that does align perfectly. Yes, I can do that and I can shift. But if you set it in quarters, I think it helps. So like you said, Jeff, I think that's great. Performance manage yourself and your own goals. will help you set your intentions to make sure you don't fail.
Yeah, I think if you want to go.
I'll just there was a conversation that I was having, right? And so I guess, like I've been saying the last few weeks, really relationships based. Well, I got an invite to a campus, and they were like, "Hey, come to my campus. I want to have this. I want to show you this. I want to." And in my mind, it's like, well, is that priority, right? Like, are there places that I need to be at before I get to that place? And so I told this person, I was like, "Give me 3 weeks." Right? Give me 3 weeks. Please know that it's not because I don't want to go. Please know that it's not because I don't, want to see the things that you're talking about. In the first couple of weeks, I have to get these 3 things done. Okay. And the response was, great. I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes we're so afraid to say no to certain things because we think, oh, this is really important.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to maintain the relationship. In fact, I think it built a deeper relationship because they realized, like, oh, like, he did not answer my response. It was an email. And then I talked to him face to face, and then I said, like, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm gonna make my way over, but I got to do these 3 things first. And so, in saying yes or no, right? I'm always like a yes person. Like, I always want to get to yes, right? But it may not be yes just quite yet because I know I've got to get these other things here that are really important.
And you have a filter on why you're saying yes when you're saying yes, right? How about that as a positive way to say that, right? It's a filter. It's a filter. Here's a little bonus piece to think about leadership is like, and I think we've talked about it here, is you have to know your own vision and your leadership and what is important and what is not, right? Your intention. Because as a leader, we're talking about walking in halls, you are going to get bombarded with questions, and it's going to be simple. You got to give it yes or no. You can't tell a teacher, well, let me think about it. I'll get back to him. I don't know, maybe, because, man, they will stop asking and they'll just start doing it. So you got to say yes or no. But, man, if you know where you are internally, you can have faith that all of those yes, no, snap decisions are going to come back to center because you're answering them through that same filter of whatever that intent is and why you're actually doing those things. And so I think that's an important piece, too. That would help this year if you know this is what we're doing as a campus. Hey, Price, I just saw this cool thing on TikTok. Can we do it? No. Why? Does it all align to our vision? Well, no. I mean, conversely, hey, Price, I just saw this thing. Does it align to this? Yes. Why? This. Sure. It makes it easy on me, but it also starts making it easy on people that want to ask questions too.
Okay. All right, I'm going to flip the script on Jeff. Jeff, what is something that you wish we would have talked about today regarding intentions that we didn't talk about?
I would have said, and I didn't know I needed it, was that reflective piece. Like performance managing your own goals. I had not thought about that. And so I am glad that we covered that. So thank you for asking, Chris.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what we're here.
It seems like your role is rubbing off on you, Jeff.
I'm learning from your intentions each podcast when you ask that question. I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys and our listeners for listening in today. We hope that you gained something from this podcast episode. We definitely want you to be setting goals for the new year. It's never too late to set those goals. Make sure you performance manage those goals and quarter them out. And make sure you set intentions each morning, each day when you go through your day. And then at the end of the day, reflect on how you use those intentions. And we think that will help you be successful. We do have an email address out there. It's questions@edthoughtpartners.com, questions@edthoughtpartners.com. Go send us an email of what you think about the episodes. If there's any topics you want us to cover, we definitely will cover them. If you think you'd make a great podcast guest, we would love to have you as well. So please send us your pitch. We'd be excited to hear from you and talk to you. Go check out our website, edthoughtpartners.com, see what we offer. And if you want to check the show notes, you should see a link to Jeff's blog. Jeff, what is the name of your blog?
It is called...
That's how new it is.
I know, right? Give me a second. learningtoleadingbridge.com. learningtoleadingbridge.com.
learningtoleadingbridge.com. That's T-O, or is it the number 2?
It's all letters. I'm an English
major. It's all
major.
Letters. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate your time today, and we're excited that you guys are here. Please go check out our YouTube channel as well so you can see our beautiful faces and see the ugly facial expressions that we each make as we make these conversations and make our points. So, all right, have a good night, and we will see you next time.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hallway Conversations with Ed Leaders. If you found today's discussion enlightening, please subscribe to our podcast and share it with fellow educators and leaders who can also benefit from these conversations. Are you looking to enhance your leadership skills? Visit our website. There, you can register for our nationally accredited coaching certification program. This program offers you an opportunity to earn a board-certified coach certification and become a strategic leadership coach, empowering you to make a significant impact in your educational community. Don't miss this chance to elevate your leadership. Join us and transform your educational leadership journey today. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep inspiring. See you in the next episode of Hallway Conversations with Ed Leaders.